Okay, so we are live now. So, I guess, did any of you see the twist? The first time that you watched Gurren Lagann, did you see the twist about Kamina coming? Did you know about it? Um,
Uh,
let's start with you, George.
to be quite honest, since the anime is a decade old, I was a bit spoiled by it, so I kind of expected it. I think they did a good job, and the way that I see it, it's kind of symbolically, Kamina's death is kind of a stepping stone for Simon's growth. So it was sad, but it was kind of a necessary way for Simon to grow as an
Sea
adult.
moon. Sea moon. Like semen. Okay?
Okay, Simone.
Yeah. So what about you, Yolo? So I think you are the only one who watched Gurren Lagann as it aired. Did you see the twist coming at all?
No, no, no.
So, if I'm not mistaken,
Blew me away when it happened live. I was like, what the F just happened?
so I remember that I'm not sure if it was in the movies or in the TV series, but at the beginning, they show basically it's Simon, but you think it's Kamina in space. Was that in the TV series? So
It was.
it was.
I didn't even notice that till you said it either, too.
And yeah, so it's supposed to be obviously it's Simon, but
It's kind of a silhouette shot,
yeah,
kind of.
yeah. But by the way, I don't think that scene actually makes any sense. Because they show one of the people under Simon is Buta, the little thing. And so in the movie, it it transforms in so in the Gurren Lagann movies, it transforms into its kind of humanoid form,
hmm
and that's basically what you see there. But that scene doesn't actually happen because you obviously know what happens to Simon at the end anyway. But okay, where do we go from here? Um, yeah. Anyone have any idea? Go on.
Lou, yeah, it was you, Lou, or was it George Sears that watched it when it first came out? What was the culture like a little in terms of like was this? My impression is it was pretty much the biggest thing when it came out.
Yeah, I remember that. I think that season was pretty good, but I mean, that's the main threads on the A board were that, just like Code Geass took over, that
Mhm.
took over during the time.
Yep.
It was just all that.
Yeah, because I got into anime like not then, but like
It's kind of
some
rare
years
for A to be
after.
just filled up with one anime on the whole board, and that's kind of what it was. It was kind of a happening. I mean, you don't get anime like that, but once in a blue moon, you know.
hmm Every so often, yeah.
Right. So, um, who is I guess did the show? So I think I shared GR Arcada's review. And some of you might have watched it. One of the criticisms which he had was that um, well, it's basically all just screaming. I mean, so I just had a look at the Encyclopedia Dramatica entry, and obviously they're kind of making fun of that too as well. That like
Yes.
it's all screaming, none of it makes any sense. Basically, the people who scream the loudest win. The mechas just repair themselves automatically, so there's no logic to anything. Um, what do you make of these criticisms, George?
I would say they're kind of missing the point. I mean, yes, it's fantastical. It has that over top nature, but the purpose of them is just if you put aside the whole screaming and whatnot, the whole fights and everything centered around the show is about Simon's growth as as a man, and each fight gets escalated, gets bigger and bigger in scale to
And it's
show that.
very explicit about that. Every episode starts with, "This is the story of a boy who usually at the start has yet to claim his destiny," or like in later episodes, it's whose fate is like interfering with his destiny. It's very explicit from the start that this is Simon's story, and this is going to be about his personal growth.
So, some people, I've seen some people describe this show as like an homage to a super robot anime like Get a Robo, Mazinga.
Yes,
Yeah.
the concept of spiral power is entirely ripped from Getarays. It is Getarays. The only difference is it views it in a more positive capacity than Getarobo does. Because Getarobo views Getarays more in a capacity of, yeah, it's unlimited evolution, and this unlimited evolution is going to drive naturally, essentially different species to genocide, to eat one another, to see which is the most evolved. And Gurren Lagann does not take it that far and explicitly rejects taking it that far.
I guess they sort of make a similar point when they say when the anti spiral says that
Yes.
it's going to lead that spiral energy is going to lead to the destruction of the universe and a black hole or
Yes.
something.
Specifically,
It's like
if
entropy.
sort of a little like entropy. I think also a little bit about like maybe that layer of wishes causing like super density or something like that. Because I mean, obviously, a black hole is all about density.
Yeah,
I don't. I mean that's one of those
kind of
things
the
with like,
opposite of entropy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
But I mean, entropy in the fact that, like, they're saying that the spirals are going to eventually, like a virus, just eat everything up till there's nothing left, basically.
yes, yeah. You could take it either way. The point is that, to be honest, the mechanics almost don't matter. It's the idea that unrestrained pushing for wishes uh, is Faustian. It's the old idea of like, yeah, it's Faustus. It's the idea of you push forever, and you are willing to trample over everything. And so Gurren Lagann cuts it off that far. But the anti-spirals show those who have progressed in the opposite direction. Those who have decided that we will allow nothing, we will overcome nothing, and we will allow no one else to overcome. We will destroy the heroic. And you see sort of the horrifying society they've created as a result. Blank individuals that are just nothingness. I sort of posted that pic, and it's like Gurren Lagann was against transhumanism before Darling and the Franks was.
I mean, is it against transhumanism? I mean, it's you say.
Yes.
Well, I mean, depends on how
Well,
you.
it's
Yeah,
it's
go ahead.
it's a very tiny scene. It's not like it's a big theme of the show or anything, but it's there. It's just in that one scene.
By the way, I kind of got biker gang kind of vibes from I guess from this as well as I guess another show that this gets compared to, Kill la Kill.
Mhm.
Did you get that as well? Like that it was sort of like
Like the group dynamic, kind of.
yeah, sort of, and also I guess the kind of clothes that they would wear.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess In the history of anime, I think Super Robot anime came before real robot anime.
Yes, Super
Yeah.
Super Robot anime was almost entirely a thing of the 70s, and it was essentially like it was like Power Rangers in that you had Monster of the Week dies, get ready for new Monster of the Week. And they would slowly introduce running plots throughout, but it was mostly Monster of the Week. And those shows, basically, you had so many of them in the 70s that it overpopulated it. It's also worth pointing out that at the same time in the 70s, you had like manga versions of like Mazinga, of Getter Robo, that were actually like pretty violent and had a lot of sort of more mature, for lack of a better term, themes going on. And so that has to be kept in mind in terms of like creating mythologies for those greater meta series. But regardless, yeah, Super Robot shows mostly died once Gundam showed up. They continued in some capacity in various OVAs, and then there was the Brave series throughout the 90s, which was basically the people that made Transformers in Japan going off to make their own thing. And then that ended with Gal Gaigar, and Super Robot shows have basically been dead since then, other than brief examples like this.
I guess from the Super Robot shows which you have seen, is this like basically the best one? Is Gurren Lagann basically the best Super Robot show?
Oh, definitely, yes. Like this is it's the synthesis of a lot of the other themes, and I mean the other thing is most Super Robot shows were essentially toy commercials. That's what they were. If you're going to get you're watching old Mazinger Z, you're essentially watching Transformers. If you're watching like later OVAs of Mazinger Z, okay, it's not quite that, uh, but it's still just sort of like mindless action and fighting and like the Arcada review about Gurren Lagann and it being mindless. That's basically true for a lot of Super Robot. I'd say obviously not Gunbuster. Um, Less so some of the Getter Robo adaptations, like Shin Getter Robo. I mean, it's still fairly mindless, but you have more of the overarching theme of evolution and whatnot. But those are exceptions to the rule, and Gurren Lagann, yeah, it is sort of the most fully realized. This is an incredibly fully realized show. I was talking earlier. This feels like a show that could have been 50 episodes, and it feels epic in its capacity because it's really going through all the major stages of Simon's life. Like they could have just cut the show pre-time skip at like episode 14, but they didn't. And I think that was actually better for it because the first half is setting up all this stuff about essentially Sunemon and the rest of the characters overcoming the obstacles in their way. And the second half is arguably more relevant to a lot of people once they hit teenage years or adulthood of this of the bureaucracies just trying to strangle you and and push you into the mold and really deal harshly with the nail that sticks out. And it turns into a story about overcoming that as well as proving wrong the poor fools that did agree to that little that are using that system in that way.
So, George, did you feel like the quality was good all throughout, or Was the second half better than the first half? Or
I
yeah, what did you?
say I personally enjoyed the first half a bit more than the second half, although I would say they're both really. I would say they're both great, but I guess I enjoy the first half more because you're more it shows more of Simon's growth, whereas the second half it's basically Simon almost fully grown with more obstacles putting him through the test and seeing how he overcomes said obstacles through the anti spiral.
I see. I think I probably enjoyed more the second half because well, I think it just looked cooler. But and in the first half, I think there was a bit which was a bit slow, like from around episode 4 to 6, like
Yes.
yeah.
From I mean, we can sort of go over arcs. Like the first arc is the first episodes is Simon's sort of basic introductions, as well as Simone learning the basics of being inspired by Kamina and pushing through things, etc., etc. Episodes 4 through 6 are just sort of kind of zany. The one with Rossyu is absolutely necessary for all the things they're going to set up later. Episode 4, we can talk a little about episode 4. That was, if you've watched it, animated by a different studio, and kind of is a dead weight on the show as a result. Not too much happens other than Gitan's group is introduced, and the animation is ugly. It's very ugly.
I saw that Gerard Carter complained about it, but I personally didn't notice it until he pointed it out. What about you, Lou? Did you notice that episode 4 was by a different studio, different director, that the quality was lower and all that?
Not particularly with the early episodes. No,
But I mean, did you watch it recently? Just curious, Lou.
no.
What about you, George? Did you notice the episode 4 that the quality of the animation was lower and so on?
No, not particularly.
Yeah, but yeah, apparently some people did notice. What about you, Snotsig, Heracles? Did you notice
Yes.
that? Yeah, you noticed that.
Yes. Well, to be fair, I watched this like many years ago, around when that Arcada review came out, and that was very much part of the discussions of the show. But yes, it was, to me, it was very noticeable even going back to it. There's all these ways in which there's a very cartoony art style to this show, but the whatever studio they have that came in pushed the cartoony art style in episode 4 in the wrong direction, and as a result, like everyone is Kamina especially looks ugly. And a lot of characters just look either too simplistic or ugly. Kamina is the worst offender. It would be less obvious if you didn't have to look at Kamina every so often, but
Yeah, I mean, the art seemed weird in some places and some other episodes too, but I just I think at the time I just chalked it up to, oh, this is just, one of the early episodes. Like, I didn't even know it was another studio at the time, so.
I mean, overall, I think for a 2007 anime, it looked pretty decent.
Yeah.
pretty decent. So some of these shots are just, and I've been posting tons of them in the
Yeah,
little
freeze
recording.
frames are pretty bad.
There are a million tremendous freeze frames in the show. I mean, I think everyone knows that you have the little freeze frames for the commercial interruptions, which are very, very iconic for Gurren Lagann. But even then, some of the like still shots in terms of like showing off mechs or just having a very dramatic simple shot are very, very, very impressive. And on top of that, you have some very, very energetic animation at a lot of points. All the grit your teeth scenes, the final battle against the anti-spiral. Apparently, I've heard stories that they used something like a third of the show's budget on that final sequence, more or less. Which I can sort of believe.
Oh, 100%.
I think I heard some reviewer claim that the co-founder of Gynets left Gynets around this time because of a bunch of 2chan threads saying that oh look, Gynets has dropped the ball. The animation is bad and so on and so forth. But I didn't really notice that myself. Um, One of the other complaints which I did see, I think I shared this video as well. It was a pretty good video too, which went over some of the influencers, including Ashitanujo, Getarobo, um, on on um, on
Gurren
Gurren Lagann,
Lagann.
Oh, yeah,
and
I've seen
yeah,
that.
and I think one of the complaints was that Kamina is like an example of toxic masculinity or something.
Okay, let's throw out the bait terms. Let's throw out the bait terms and let's talk in more grounded terms. Kamina is an example of, well, the interesting thing about
He's a
him,
man's man.
he's a man's man.
Yep.
But the interesting thing about him is they don't make him into a complete caricature. Even though
Yeah, yeah.
he acts like a caricature, and he likes to be over the top in such a capacity, but they reveal often enough that just as often it's him who is relying on Simone. Al the Fox, who couldn't join us, he made a very good point earlier that this harkens back to some of the older, like 70s anime, like let's say Captain Harlock, where you have the super manly main character, but you also have the quieter, nerdy one, but he's that emotional rock of support for the main character. And in this case, the priority of whose main character is reversed, but it works just as well. Kamina here is. There's a great scene, I think it's episode 7, where he's talking with Yoko, and it might have been episode 8. And they're talking about this scene where him and Simone were trapped at one point in the middle of the underground, completely away from their village. They thought they would like just starve and die and they might suffocate. And Simone thought that too. And Kamina was, of course, luring him on, going, "Hey, come on, Simone, get moving. We'll." But it's later revealed when he talks to Yoko about this that no, Kamina was absolutely scared out of his mind, and his act was like mostly an act. And he was just doing it to keep up spirits. But it was Simone's quiet determination that really kept him going. That did keep up his hope and did let him keep up his act.
It was like a symbiotic relationship between the two.
So
yes, it's a symbiotic relationship. They really are brothers essentially.
So I guess the
Yeah.
criticism is something like, oh look, he was careless, he got himself killed, and he made a bunch of people sad because he died.
Well, yeah, they set that up in episode 7, which is the death flag episode for Kamina. And in that episode, he's making this all these sorts of wild pronouncements about a man never retreats no matter what, which is one of those things which sounds nice as a platitude, and it's pretty good as a platitude. But Kamina is taking it to a logical extreme that he probably shouldn't. Now, they do eventually manage to temporarily beat the battleship that time, but Yoko, chews him out afterwards. It's like, this is the first time I've seen you be this reckless. I'm scared. I promise me that you'll rein it in a little, that you won't do something like that again.
Yeah, that's a really good moment between the two. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
It's a really good moment. It's very well directed.
Because before that, they always are kind of at each other's throats. They're always kind of joking around with each other. This moment's real serious and grounded.
Yeah, it's like the first serious moment between Kamina and Yoko where they aren't fighting or flirting with one another.
So I guess
And there's this great bit. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go a while on this. There's this great bit where it's well directed, where you have Kamina on one side, Yoko on the other, wide shot. Very, very well done. And then what's even better is this is showing up as a death flag, and it interrupts that with this big giant explosion from the volcano. So that doesn't linger on you at the end of the episode, so you don't think about, oh gosh, Kamina nearly died at the episode. That's not your lingering takeaway as you exit, which is great because it's setting it up for the next episode in which he does die. And then you have what makes it even better is Kamina doesn't die in that episode because of his own recklessness, really. It's more like a fluke accident where Guy just happens to shoot up at that exact point, and Kamina's kind of screwed. But at the same time, Simone starts going catatonic with grief immediately. And so it's arguable that Kamina might have survived if he hadn't continued to fight, but he sees that everyone is relying on him. He sees that Simone is just giving.
He has to be the character that he's built up.
Yeah.
Yes, he does have to play the facade that he's built up for himself, which he partially is. And by that sense of inspiration, he saves them from the jaws of defeat. I think it's very symbolic that it's his sacrifice that lets them take over this battleship and have a walking home for the first time.
Yes, I don't think that the anime is reprimanding him for make him being reckless or something, because or that it's saying that his sacrifice or his sacrifice caused by his recklessness was wrong because it made a bunch of people sad.
No, definitely
No.
not in that capacity. But I think it reprimands him a little because it does that in episode 7, where Yoko's chewing him out a little, and then later in later episodes where Simon is in his funk, he's mindlessly repeating some of the stuff Kamina said, and he's taking this to mean basically that he himself, Simon, should go on a suicide run. And this is clearly not. To be fair, this isn't what Kamina had in mind at all for himself or for Simon, but it is the takeaway that I guess someone could misinterpret from the act that he put on.
I guess so. After Kamina's death, Simon comes out of his funk when he gets a girlfriend.
No. Well, yeah, I would say after that, but
and
before that.
Yeah. So after that, and I think he says that he's not Kamina, but he's his own person. And
yes,
Nia also tells him that that's what, that he's not Kamina, he's his own person, It should be his own
Yeah.
person. And
Nia is this excellent character that's very well realized in the second season, and then they just sort of drop her in second season because they have to use her as, admittedly, the damsel in distress archetype.
there's nothing
And
wrong
they
with
sort
that. Okay.
no,
Uh,
there's nothing wrong with that, but they use it so quickly that I almost feel like there's not enough establishment time with her in the second season.
um,
But
go on. Sorry.
but in the first season, like Simone finds her in this in this little box in the middle of nowhere. It's really quite strange, and it's eventually revealed it's because she's Lord Genome's daughter and she was disposed of. And then it's also revealed that she was sent by the Einstein spirals, whatever.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
but immediately out of the gate, she has this caring but also very accepting nature. Simone is like telling her, "Oh my gosh, you're barefoot. Let me get you something." And she just goes, "Oh, it's cold and wet and squishy. It feels wonderful." And Simone is talking about in that episode about I have to like I have to keep fighting even if it kills me, and it's just like, is that really truly what you want? You shouldn't lie to yourself. Uh, and she has this great, even though she is this character who knows very little, and she's very much set up as this quirky character who doesn't have a lot of common sense. She's also this character that has a very good intuitive understanding of people. And in the next couple episodes with her, Simone is basically being written off by the whole crew as a lost cause. That that he's in his funk forever, and Nia is the only one that, at this point, sticks up for him, even though she's a new character. But she's seen enough spark in terms of his, and this is like a long arc. This is 3 episodes.
Yeah, he's in this funk for quite a while.
Yeah. I guess in that case, it also makes sense because it's assuming that she basically was abandoned. Simone was the first person to basically so much self-sacrifice and defend her. She goes, "Oh, I realize that this man is a great man."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he immediately goes out of his way to sacrifice himself for a stranger he barely knows, which is basically like the mindset that he's in, is like, my life is worthless type deal. And she immediately goes like, anyone who has this kind of will behind them, their life is not worthless. And
yeah, go on.
yeah, of course, she immediately goes into like trying to learn who Kamina was naturally. Yeah, and just overall has this steadfast faith in them. There's a great scene where it's like Simone just being stuck drilling the stuff. Simone has decided to just curl up in his little cave in his little room and do nothing but drill statues like he used to. And it's actually rather endearing that everyone else naturally is rather annoyed by all this and sees it as Simone turning inward and becoming useless. It's actually Nia that stops by and not necessarily approving of how he's turned inward, but she's the one that really appreciates and goes, "Hey, these are very good quality. These take a lot of work and dedication."
Yeah, so basically he makes a bunch of statues, rough statues of of Kamina. So George, do you
Totally not going a little bonkers or anything.
Oh, he
exactly?
is going completely bonkers. There's also this thing where the Beastman General, who he's interesting. He's like this little rat guy, but he's supposed to be a stereotype of an old Japanese World War II general.
Yeah.
And he's like going that you'll become like another human wife, essentially another human concubine. You'll become just like another doll. And she angrily slaps this guy's
Good.
who's talking about you're just all dolls.
So
Is she,
yeah, and yeah. So George, do you think that sorry, I mean Simon, succeeds in being, uh, I guess, his own man or different from Kamina, or does he just become Kamina 2.0? Um,
I would say he does share some traits of Kamina, but I think the main difference is he doesn't feel like he is being all bravado or anything. He believes in his heart that he needs to be responsible. And also the fact that at least with Simone in the second part, he doesn't seem as reckless as Kamina. Let's say
no.
Katana's more.
Yeah, he definitely seems like a Simon who has like assumed some of the traits of Kamina, but not, completely transformed into him.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, Simone is kind of like learning through not just Kamina, but he
Yeah, it's like an evolution.
and pretty much all of his teammates. They're kind of making him grow as a statue of himself. They're a bit of a, I guess you would say they're the, I guess, pillar of his character.
Yeah, it's sort of like in every arc, Simone is going through a different struggle. Early arcs, he's going through the struggle of just trying to get something done and to start something. Middle, he's going through the struggle of essentially seeing yourself as worthless, and so like pushing yourself into like wild suicidal scenarios and
Worthless,
just
but he also depended on that person. Like he depended on Kamina. It was like his crutch,
yes.
his support, and then it's taken away from him. And now he has
Oh
to
yeah.
survive without that and overcome that.
Yes, he has to overcome, the loss of like the closest person ever to him, and
Yeah, it'd be like losing an arm,
it
but even
is.
worse, like it's like his core being, like a piece of his soul was ripped out.
It very much so. But not just that. He takes his coping mechanism with that is to uh basically go sort of nihilistic and just be willing to sacrifice himself at the drop of a hat. And the show also shows the how essentially that doesn't lead to
Yeah, almost an
anything.
overcompensation.
Yes, it is an overcompensation. And I mean, what makes it worse that they go about it a little. Simone does blame himself a little for Kamina's death, and it's not entirely an incorrect supposition. And what makes it worse is one of the characters like accuses him of this, and like he really shouldn't have. And
Yeah.
Simone just goes, "Yeah, you're right. I did kill my big brother, so I'm just gonna have to be stronger for it. I'll just have to push through, push through, push through." Uh, but there's no heart in his words. There is no energy. There's no self-respect. There's no pride. And until he regains that, and Nia's arguably the key vessel in terms of pushing him towards that. Uh, until he regains that pride in himself, his his Gurren doesn't respond at all, and it just becomes this tin of junk. But once he does regain his pride, it does reactivate. He is able to pilot Gurren, and as I recall, it's basically because he wants to save Nia. Like the pure act of wanting to save another is what finally pushes him out of his funk, along with speeches and whatnot.
Yeah, I guess Kamina
Uh,
had to die for Simon to be able to grow. I mean,
Yes.
I guess that's sort of like
well, from a storytelling perspective, that's not to say that Simon wouldn't have grown fine, like in imagined reality where Gurren Lagann is real and Kamina lives. It's not like Simon wouldn't grow fine, but he'd always be a little bit in the shadow of Kamina. It's more dramatic and it's more meaningful to have Kamina suddenly die like that. It's the old trope of the mentor, the Obi-Wan dies and he has to die for the growth of the Luke Skywalker type character.
yeah,
It's just unusual for the mentor character to be this balls to the wall enthusiastic guy.
yeah. I think they kind of sort of make a similar point at the end when Simon refuses to resurrect Nia. Um,
Well, yes, that's more an
Yeah.
idea of like not dwelling into what is the sacred, and really the people who have resurrecting the dead or something like that is getting into something that basically is show views as humans aren't capable of that and humans should not strive towards that. And basically the idea is if he had resurrected Nia, someone like one of the kids talks about why don't you just do that, and Yoko tells the little kid off and he says like, kid, uh, Simon isn't God. Spiral power isn't God.
yeah, but
Uh, uh,
I think what Simon says, not what Yoko says, but what Simon says is that basically, if he did that, the old folk would get in the way of the new generation. And
yeah,
I think the reason
Yeah.
why Simon himself just fucked off at the end is because he needed to fuck off so that the
I
new
think
people could take their place, the younger people.
if he would have revived Nia there, I think he would have become the villain, because it's
yeah,
just it's when you start doing that kind of stuff, it's like it's okay for him to do it, then everyone else can do it too. And like you said, the old
yes,
people get in the way of the new people.
yeah, and it's also this idea of like
You got to pass the torch. You got to
Yes.
let it
Yeah.
the new generation do
you
it.
do have to pass the torch, but I think it's also an idea of breaking a boundary that's not meant to be broken, that you will sort of create something a little
Yeah,
inhuman.
definitely.
Mm,
Uh,
I mean,
lead to the spiral nemesis in this
I mean,
case.
I guess you could say that, but that sort of contradicts with the point that that it's making throughout that humanity is supposed to like break through every uh,
No,
every ball.
it's complementary. It's uh, each uh each arc of Gurren Lagann is breaking through like a different level of assumed reality. First, they break through to the surface. Then they break through the Spiral King. Then they break through bureaucracy, and then they break through the universe. But at the very end is them establishing and agreeing with the anti-spiral that there are limits that this Faustian spirit to overcome, it cannot be allowed to run completely amok. It is a tool, it is a purpose, and there is actually joyous purpose in that spirit.
I think,
But
well, maybe, but I also felt like it's more like saying that it's not up to us, the old generation, to break the next limit. It's up to the new people. So basically, Simon hands over his drill to the kid.
there's some amount of that, yes. But
I'm
again,
totally with good student on this.
yeah, I mean that's fair. I always viewed it
Not to
more
say that
as
Simon isn't like, you know, breaking the heavens and all that, but there is that underlying message at the end of like, you got to pass it on.
yeah.
So that
Absolutely.
so the next
I'm just emphasizing more the perspective of, like, in this universe, pushing too far will lead to spiral nemesis, and it is the
I
idea.
think the natural end of humanity is everything is going to get destroyed. I think that's the whole point of like what the anti-spirals was saying is like, if you guys go on, it's going to end in everything being destroyed.
Yeah.
And they didn't care.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, what the point that the series is trying to make is that the anti-spiral is wrong. Humanity will break through even that, and will
even that limit.
Yes.
And that humanity will regulate itself. That humanity is wise enough to break through and then.
And I think that's Simun. I think that's Simun not bringing Nia back to life. You know.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
So okay. Yeah, I mean, would you guys like to see like a sequel about them defeating the?
Nope.
No.
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 Thank you.
They ride on off into the sunset. Let's walk away.
That would be as.
It's good how it is. We don't need more.
I was gonna say it's as sacrilegious as the Netflix Cowboy Bebop adaptation.
Christ, no. But I mean, is the reason that you don't want to see a sequel because people are bad at making sequels, or?
Well, it's twofold. One, yes. How could you top this? This is an all-time classic of anime. This is one of the best anime ever made. Period.
But I guess I guess so. I guess, I mean, you could also say that, for example, about the original Gundam, like couldn't have people said like you shouldn't make Zeta, you shouldn't continue the story.
I'm not gonna say I wouldn't like it. I mean, if they had a whole new cast and they did the exact same thing again and it subverted some stuff, like whatever, everyone's gonna watch it.
But that's sort of the issue. Is from the perspective of Gurren Lagann,
just don't do it. Don't need to do it.
There's nowhere else to go from here, because any struggles that those two kids taking over are going to have.
We're going to break the 8th dimension, okay? We're going to break the 8th dimension now.
Yeah, you literally had.
We're going to go even higher.
You had a battle the size of the universe, and the whole story was about Simon overcoming.
Then we'll make it a multiverse. It'll be a multiverse.
You're just retreading the same shit. There is nothing.
They'll be subverting the trope by subverting the trope.
There you go.
I guess
it'll be meta. It'll be super meta, dude.
But there is nothing new theme-wise it could tell you with a sequel. It would simply be a retread, and
if it was a good writer, they could. If it was a good writer, they could.
Maybe.
So I guess I mean, sure, you could say that, but I mean, couldn't you say that a lot of the same ground was retread within the series itself? Like, a robot within a robot.
Less episodes. I'm always for less episodes.
The scale.
I'm always for less episodes.
So basically, but it's just the same thing, but the robots are becoming bigger and bigger. Couldn't somebody make that criticism? I've seen it be made as well. That
I would disagree with that. Other than until you got to the very, very last arc.
And I am being a bit facetious, taking the side of the super corporations making another Gurren Lagann.
Oh yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, no,
but continue.
but yeah, the arc that is set up well. It's almost Rossiu's arc in a way. Post time skip, where Rossiu's become. It's actually. I got some vibes a little bit from like young Japan officers, stuff like that in World War II, and Rossiu being sort of like the leader of them. But Rossiu's turned into this very hard-nosed bureaucrat type who hides everything from everyone else, and it's like doesn't trust anyone else. And aside from like a very close circle of basically lackeys, and essentially when the anti-spirals show up, one, he's immediately like, we can't tell the truth of this to anyone, and second, when the truth does come out, and and it happens to be a conversation between Simone and Nia, and for some people, for some reason, the people are blaming Simone. They don't actually give too much rationalization. I mean, it's pretty clear that this is just irrational plebs being irrational plebs, and they set this up well beforehand, where they sort of have like there's a few minor comments about like, hey, they're complaining about taxes, they're complaining about slight regulations, they're complaining about all these very minor things that are nothing compared to the struggles and hardships they had only 7 years ago. That people get used to the new norm and become spoiled very, very quickly. And
Doesn't that scientist guy try to bring it to Simone a couple times, and he kind of just brushes him off? Or am I totally wrong there?
what exactly do you mean?
Like, I'm pretty sure it's sometime in the series. Like, it seems to me that one scientist dude is kind of put kind of in a position in the government where he kind of oversees a bunch of stuff, and I kind of got the vibe that he tried to kind of warn Simone of some of this stuff, and he kind of just brushed it off. Like, we have bigger stuff to worry about right now.
Yeah, Rossiu sort of has a little scene with Simone.
It was very minor.
Very minor. Also, Rossiu is like straight up doing shit behind Simone's back. Like he is he is rounding up everyone who is underground.
I liked that though,
and forcing them upstairs onto the surface so he can get a census of all of them to make sure that they don't hit 1 million, but of course they hit 1 million anyways, sort of showing like the limits of such systems that among other things they can't control that.
So, George, I think you said in the server that you thought that Rossio did nothing wrong. Am I correct? Did you say
lies?
Yeah,
I'm on that page. I think Rossio did nothing wrong. It was his own view.
So I guess
no.
You would disagree with that, Heracles, I guess.
Yeah, when I first watched it a while ago, I was actually kind of sympathetic to that view. Now it's like, no, not at all. Especially because he does. There's all sorts of matters where he's not willing to accept things that are out of his control, and he also just doesn't trust others blatantly. He wants to make a scapegoat, a absolutely unjust scapegoat of Simone, where he wants to, blame him for non-existent crimes and sort of just hand him to the mob over nothing.
Well, I thought he was doing that to like achieve his goals, though, right?
No, he's doing this to appease the mob. They later show that he was absolutely breaking down, crying after doing this. He did not want to do this. This wasn't a cynical act.
That was a moment of weakness. A moment of weakness.
But I guess wasn't it the quote unquote responsible thing to do, not to let the mob go out of control, I guess.
No, because the thing is, if you enable a mob and you let them deduce, if you make scapegoats of people who have done nothing wrong, you're just enabling people to do this again and again and again, and it gets worse. I mean, it's one thing to have like a failed commander fall on his sword and resign. This was not the case with Simon. He had done literally nothing wrong.
But I guess
And,
oh, okay, go
and,
on.
and you also have stuff where like Rosyu is immediately going into the idea of let's just move off of Earth and that's it, which is actually a callback to Space Battleship Yamato. That's like the initial plan in Space Battleship Yamato until they're contacted by Iskandar.
But is that a retarded plan, though? I mean, given that there didn't seem to be any other way.
You would think so, but he himself admits that he considered blowing up the moon, and that it was an option, but he goes, "Oh, it's too risky." Well, what's risky is also sending yourself up into a single battleship and just hoping that the enemy doesn't send other any other giant robots or anything after you, and just with no resources, hoping you'll just be able to defend it all. Like he's basically just hoping.
Didn't he have the
That
head with all the knowledge?
he had Lord Genome on his side, yes, but Lord Genome's not an all-knowing guy at all.
Yeah, but he had knowledge.
He has generally good, yeah, but they have no way of knowing whether the anti-spirals will even let humanity just survive. It's quite possible they wouldn't, and in fact, the anti-spirals do start teleporting all these giant mechanical creations into them and start blowing up their ship. And of course, Simon and the rest
come and save them. They come and save them, but there was no way.
Yeah,
there was no way for
the,
Rossio to know that that would happen. I guess that there would be this massive attack, literally out of thin air.
I mean,
Didn't the head warn him though? The head warned him.
During what Nia said, the brainwash version said, it wouldn't be surprising. She basically says she wants humanity to suffer despair.
And to be exterminated. Yes. It's the human extermination system. You can't get much more explicit.
So, I mean, it's not like the anti-spiral will just go, oh, let's only exterminate humans on Earth. No, they want to exterminate humans in general.
So what should have Rossio done then, I guess?
Supported Simon, unironically. Like, it's fine to create a backup plan and to set up like this little mini arc.
What was Simon's plan?
Simon, of course,
hit it a lot.
Simon gets imprisoned too early on for have like a steady plan, so he just has to roll with the punches. But the plan of essentially his
literally
blow up the moon. Why not?
Yeah. So
and that's their first thought. And even Rossyu admits, like, they have such power level stuff that it's not a unrealistic proposal for them. But Rossyu is the one who, because he is not, to a certain degree, he is not a fighter and is more of a bureaucrat. He's not willing to take those risks. He's not able to understand those relative risks, and he instead is entirely risk averse.
He thinks he does, though.
He thinks he does, though.
So I guess if it's so bad, why is it at the end Simon fucks off and leaves everything in the hands of Rossio?
Well, sort of because he is a good bureaucrat, and he has actually learned from that example.
I think at the end they both concede a little bit. Like, I think Simon realizes he's a little right, and I think the other guy realizes Simon's a little right. You know,
a little bit.
Yeah,
It's he Like, of course, Rosyu talks directly with his village elder. He actually takes on the same VA as the village elder in the Japanese at the end,
That's
which
cool.
is kind of it's a neat touch. I love Joji Nakata. And it's really dark what they have Rosyu do, where he's somewhat understandably, given Rosyu's severe personality, he wants to take ultimate responsibility by committing suicide, and it's Simon and Gurren Lagann that have to teleport in, and it's a great mirror where he goes, "Rosyu, let's see you grit those teeth." He punches him in the face, and it's tremendously animated.
That is also a good callback to episode
Most of the
8.
series is tremendously animated, especially Yoko.
That is also a good
Yes.
callback to episode 8, where Simon's just like, he's all lost, and he's just like, oh shit, Kamina got the kiss and I didn't. And Kamina literally comes in and just punches him in the face and just says, hey, Simon, get back to your senses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, Kamina dies because of that kiss. Essentially.
Kitan did.
She probably thinks it does a little, maybe.
Poor fucking
guilt.
Yoko. Like, everyone she meets, like, steals a kiss from her, goes off to battle, and then dies.
And so you think that has to mess with her, man? That has to. That's why she turns into like a like lonely. It's like the teacher off in the hermit teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do feel a little bad for her, and a little bad for Simon. That's one of the things where it is an interesting choice that they have Simon turn into this little hermit at well, not hermit's the wrong term, a wandering. Someone made the comparison of like a wandering Ronin. And you could say partially he's such an impressive figure that he would cast a shadow entirely over the next generation. But at the same time, it does feel like a little long in a way. Like someone like that does deserve a little appreciation in his old age, but at the same time, it is to sort of show the passing of the torch, and that once you get to that age, you are a lot more humble. You don't have nearly the respect garnered to you. Obviously, Simone would, because he's such a hero, but most aren't going to be that level of hero, and so are going to have an ending more similar to the way Simone is.
So I guess I also got the feeling that the point was that there really isn't a place. There's no place for people like Simone in a peaceful world, because you also get this feeling in the at the beginning of the last arc as well. I guess because like Simone and the other guys just don't fit in with the new world that they have created at that point as well, and so I guess.
But at the same time, Rosyu is the one that tries to dispose of them early, shall we say, and they're quite necessary.
Yeah, but
and it's actually rather inspiring the way Kitan and all of Simone's bros really come through for him, and basically just spring him from prison with just immediately. So someone was making the comparison of like the king and his manor bund. It's a very good comparison there.
Yeah, so I guess Rossio was wrong to assume that they would be unnecessary at that point.
No, he's wrong to assume that they would ever be unnecessary. Period.
But if
you
they,
always need that.
But if they would never, if they would never be unnecessary, then Simon did not need to leave, right?
Yeah, it's quite fair. Yeah,
I think Rossio kind of portrays the trope of the humanity kind of falling into that false sense of security lull, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also sort of like thinking they can understand and control everything. Like
Yes.
he thinks he's going to be able to control down to
He's
this.
going to be different than the guy before him.
Yes, and I was comparing. He has become Lord Genome himself. He is
Right, exactly.
he is forcing people onto the surface. He's taking the exact measurements. I made the point, like, Lord Genome is like the Sun King. Rossiu is like the General Secretary. The Sun King rules through fear, but all he demands is your allegiance and your obedience. He doesn't make any further demands. Rossiu is the one that goes and like, okay, he's going to force you through this census and all this other stuff, and he's also going to force on this show trial of his own greatest ally, and he's going to force you to go along with it. He's going to force you to accept that indignity and that absurdity.
It's. I
And,
mean, I guess, but they also.
the Sun King Lord Genome would just say, "You're disloyal. You're a problem. Head gone."
Yeah,
Rossiu has to cloak it in logic, which makes it all the more insulting in a way.
yeah. So you make the comparison between Rossiu and Lord Genome, but I think that there's an comparison which is made explicitly. I think like one of the characters actually does that, comparing Lord Genome
Yes, Viral does that.
to Simone, and
Oh, huh.
yeah, and basically when the plebs kind of revolt and basically just start a mess, messing up.
Well, it's
So basically, I think one of the characters says, "Isn't this basically?" So aren't the plebs now playing the part that we were playing when we were the rebels? Um,
eh,
in a sense, I guess. I think that was the point that those characters were
I
trying to make.
I don't remember that part.
I remember something around that thing where they're like, aren't we kind of just, are we the baddies now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea of, are we unnecessary now? I think I also sort of like they go through it very quickly. But there's like, they have a Lord Genome death scene at the very ending, and it serves as like a very good sort of like explanation, I guess you could say, of him, where basically he was this great warrior like Simone, but basically just got so dull and used to just governing a boring empire, that he basically lost all connections with others and started just sort of like boringly moving pieces around on a chessboard and like not caring for anything. And he basically apologizes to Nia for that, and start just viewed everything sort of like the same way Ross you did, where he views everything instrumentally. He views everything only in the terms of function, and that, I guess you could say, that's arguably his downfall, because he turns away something that he thought didn't have any function, and that thing that he thought had no function was actually what ends up galvanizing his opponents from their lowest point. Yeah, it all flows
Yeah,
tremendously
I mean,
well together.
yes, I mean, in a sense, though he kind of needed to resist the humans, because if the humans were not strong enough to defeat him, then how could they hope to defeat the anti-spiral?
Oh, absolutely,
Uh,
absolutely.
100%.
and so I guess so. We discussed whether the story implies whether people like Simone are necessary. Or what about people like Rossio? I think the story basically says you could say that the story is saying that like both are necessary, or
Hmm.
I mean, by the end, though, I guess people like Simone are not necessary anymore. but people like Rossi are, I guess.
But you still have the kids that go off into space. You have
Yeah.
you have Vivo leading that little battleship,
But
and the kid with
I
the
guess, but
ball
are
drill.
they the same? Are they the same as Team Daiguran? I guess. Isn't
I
it?
mean, they're a shadow of the former Team Daigoran. I'll grant you that, but it is sort of like the same animating spirit.
Because I kind of felt during the scenes where both those grapplers things that they
Hmm.
piloted and Team Daiguran was there, you kind of got the sense that Team Daiguran were like the rebels,
Yes.
whereas the new generation is like they are taking orders from people like Rossio, essentially.
Hmm.
Um, that's kind of sort of the difference, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the true warriors and um, or more like the rebels and the ones who are like trained up and made by the system itself, like the trained soldiers or something like that. Um, okay, so who other interesting characters? I think
I
did they?
guess
Yeah, sorry, go on, George.
I'd say another interesting character would probably be Kitan. I mean, in a way, he's base. People say he's kind of like Kamina too, but I would say the difference between him is that he's more, I guess, reckless than Kamina was.
Well, he also doesn't have a certain level of stability that internal stability that Kamina did. There's this great scene when Simon is in his funk, and Keaton starts trying to chew out and interrogate quote unquote Nia, and she just easily easily answers all his questions and starts putting him on the spot, and he goes wow,
Yeah, I think yeah,
and the whole audience just goes starts like sighing in disbelief, and the internal audience, not the audience that's watching the show, the people that are watching it
Yeah,
in story, the crew, and they're going, geez, is this our leader? This guy doesn't seem cut out to be a
yeah,
leader.
but I wonder whether Kamina would have been any better at torturing and
No,
getting the answers. So
no,
basically Kitan is like Kamina but less charismatic, at least until his final moment. Um,
less charismatic. He also doesn't have that sort of internal intuitive sense of right and wrong or good and evil as much
yeah.
as Kamina does.
Well,
Uh, mm,
I'd say
yeah.
Yoko kind of put it best. Kamina's more of the man in the front line, while Kitan was basically the guy behind pushing them forward.
Yes. Yes.
yeah, and I guess he gets his own moment, but which I think was probably the best death moment. At least I felt like when he destroys that core thing, super dense core or whatever. Um, and he's also able to use spiral energy, and he's also, or rather, like he's able to like use an actual spiral thing, and I think yeah, the pupils in his eyes also look like spirals, like Lord Genome, right before
Yes.
his death, which means that he became kind of immortal or something. But he died, of course. By
No,
immortal,
it's just sort
by
of
sort of by immortal, I mean not aging, but I guess, and more powerful or something. But obviously mortal, I guess, just like Lord Genome was.
hmm.
Um, what else is there left? So I guess we talked about Lord Genome a bit. Um, I guess the villains, the Anti-Spiral and Lord Genome. I think that they were good villains because like they weren't just evil. Like they actually had a reason, a good reason for doing
They had
Hmm.
motivations.
for
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
each level of barrier that they break through, there is a good reason for the barrier. But Simon and his gang break through anyway, and they say, we're going to control ourselves.
So,
They will.
so
Yeah, go ahead.
is the anti-spiral just another repeat of Lord Genome, or is there some kind of difference, or is it just the same thing again?
Well, yeah, it is sort of the same thing, but that is sort of the point, I guess you could say. Like, it's sort of like turning it up to a galactic scale to make it even more to I guess show like the logical conclusion of all this. I mean, aesthetic wise, they're a lot more trippy, and they actually and they're a lot more scientific than feeling than Lord Genome was. And yeah, you could say they are basically doing the same thing Lord Genome was, but the show wants to have this whole thing where it does explore the halfway point after they've after the whole society is partially civilized, and so you need a new villain, and the anti-spirals are very much the same thing over again. That's another reason why I don't think this would lend itself to more sequels.
So I guess, was the second half of the series necessary then, if it was the same thing again?
I think it was
Yeah.
just because you are essentially all the arcs with them on Earth, bringing Viol in, and some of the issues with how the Beastmen have been cast aside initially, apparently without Simon's knowledge. I think all of that was quite valuable to go over. Arguably, the show almost ends at like episode 22 or 23 or so, because at that point, all the characters' issues have resolved, and at that point, it is stupendous battle after stupendous battle, and I think that's the reason why a lot of people come away from Gurren Lagann thinking that it's all mindless. Is because the last episodes sort of are. Is because it is big battle after big battle, and there's no more growth to be done there. Everything's finished, and I think that's fine. I don't have a huge issue with it. I don't see how they could have particularly believably crafted it otherwise. But I guess you could say it's a flaw.
Well, I would argue that the final battle is a bit necessary, considering that I see the final battle as kind of sort of the final exam of Simon's what Simon learned through episode, kind of put to the test. And it's
Yeah.
pretty blatant that the anti-spiral makes a form similar to the galactic spiral of Simon's
Yes.
gunman.
Mhm.
Hmm. So would you say that the second half made a different point than the first half before the time skip? I guess. Lou.
It definitely made a different point. It was the first point is like leading up to the communist death, and then the second point is like launched off of that death. So it's, I mean, the second part is about growth, and the first part is about like, I mean, the whole thing is about growth, but they're different.
I see.
They have much different feelings from each other, for sure.
Yeah, because I guess the criticism that some people have is that, well, the second part is just the first part, but with prettier colors, bigger explosions, and bigger robots. But it's making the same point.
Well, yeah, kind of. Well, I'm always for less episodes, so 13 episode series, I'd be all for it.
So I guess the point I was trying to make about the sequel is that, okay, if you did it 2 times, then why not 3 times? Um, but I guess
Why not?
why not? I guess it's maybe not because I it's the end of Kamina's or rather Simon's character arc. So I guess let's change gear and talk about the female characters because GR Arcada's review and I think so I read Snob's review and he comments on like the subtle fan service. I didn't think that the fan service was subtle at all.
No, not at all.
It was quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Lucky Star had subtle fan service.
Yeah.
Whereas you'd think it would be the opposite, and this show is like way higher, way
Yeah,
more fan service.
So basically Snob
Almost to an absurd amount. I mean, you get like butt shots every 2 seconds, man.
yes.
Mhm.
Especially with Yoko, and I mean, is that does that in some way detract or something?
No.
No, exactly.
I would say
It doesn't bother me. It's actually done
No.
pretty. I like it done in this show. There are some shows where it's overwhelming. This show, Gynex is just so good with the animation.
Yeah, and again, this is a story that's very balls to the wall. I mean, drills are dicks. Let's be real. Everyone understands that symbolism. There's even this little scene when Simone is freeing Nia, and like the drill sort of like goes up her back, and it's sort of suggestive. But yeah, it's naturally it's going to fit with the themes of this show, so I think it works perfectly fine.
Yeah, because I guess because I think it's the same director who did Kill la Kill, right?
Yes.
And that show also gets shit sometimes with people saying
I don't get that because that show is literally built around that.
Yeah, and that show is the fan service is also integral there because it's about like literally not caring about that shit.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like part of the story in that show.
Yeah, I mean, to be for me, when it comes to Kill la Kill, there was so much fan service that I just stopped noticing it at some point.
The show is Kill la Kill is nothing but literally from beginning to end fan service.
So let's see. So the director is Imaishi Hiroyuki. He has worked on Karekano. Not that much fan service. Dead Leaves. I haven't seen it. I think it's kind of a trippy anime from what I've heard. Cutie Honey. Yeah, Cutie Honey is full of fan service. And and Panty and Stocking, which is full of fan service as well. Okay.
From our Star Wars Visions thing that came out recently.
Is that by him?
Yeah. One of the little shorts in that Star Wars Visions thing.
I see. So I also watched Snob's retrospective about Studio Gynet, and I think he described Gurren Lagann as like the swan song of or something.
Yes.
Of Studio Gynet because basically the studio had two guys. So Hiroyuki, the director of this anime, and Ano. And after those two, both of them had left. There wasn't much left, or something. I don't know. What do you guys know anything about this?
I mean, yeah, that's generally how it's viewed. Yeah. After they left, Gynax, I don't think has done like a single anime since Panty and Stocking. They've just sort of been subsisting on royalties, and I know I'd have to get it up, but Anno recently did like a little thing where he was released like some sort of press statement, basically going over the ways in which Gynax was flat out not paying royalties, not paying taxes, not doing this or that. Basically, just incapable of doing anything anymore, has no more forward motivation, and basically painted a portrait of a zombie company.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it is basically Arnold trying to distance himself from Gainax, um, given that it's going to shit essentially. Uh,
Yeah.
so I guess given that
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Their last production was this OVA thing. Oh no, ONA. Excuse me, an original net animation called "Wish Upon the Pleiades," and that was released in 2011. They have not released. Oh, okay. Never mind. That also got a actual anime adaptation in 2015. But that didn't go much of anywhere. And since then, they have not created a single new anime. They've just been like helping other studios.
okay, so rest in peace, Gainax.
Yeah. I guess what's kind of funny with the discussion of fan service, I find it funny that in Gurren Lagann the fan service is kind of censored, whereas something like Gunbusters, it's full blown to your face. Oh, look at that.
Well, yeah, the TV show versus OVA. That's the
Yeah.
difference.
So basically, I think there's an episode. I think it's episode 6 or something. The one where they meet the old man who is a beastman, and they go to the hot springs. Um. So so the TV episode is different from the one you get in the Blu-ray, or sorry, in the DVDs or Blu-ray, whatever, because there was too much fan service for that episode for television, and the TV episode had to fill that stuff. I think it has some more recap nonsense in there. Come to think of it, I think there was there a straightforward recap episode at any point? I can't
It
remember.
was it was
In Gurren
after
Lagann,
the
yes.
it was basically after when Simon defeated Longinome. It
Yeah,
became a clip show.
it was in the middle of the time skip, which I just skipped. I mean, usually when you have and it was probably the case here as well. Usually when you have compilation episodes, it's just because of the fact that they have run out of animation time, so they need to throw something on the screen for the time slot. So, compilation episode.
Yeah,
And that's probably what this was here too.
yeah, it's funny that Gainax did like two super robot shows essentially, unless there are others. So basically, Gunbuster and Gurren Lagann.
And
Whereas places,
there's Die Buster
oh,
as well.
let's forget about that. And um, whereas places like Sunrise did a lot of makeup, but you know, the
But
few.
yeah, real robots.
Well, that's not really a fair comparison because Sunrise is like an institution. Sunrise is like Rossiu, and Gynax is like Simone.
Yeah, so like there are only a few things which Gynet did, but they did them right.
Yes.
Whereas Sunrise made a lot of shit.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
made a lot of shit and some shit that was good, but most of it was just okay to bad.
Right. So I guess given that we talked about the fan service, so I guess when you're speaking of the fan service, people are normally thinking of I mostly Yoko's character, but also Nia, I guess. So who is best girl? So who of the two? I mean, I don't think there are any other. Um, let's start with you, Lou. Who is best girl?
Yoko.
I agree.
Okay. What about you, Heracles?
Best girl is Nia. Best bro.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that, dude.
Yeah, only because I was spamming it in the chat 500 times.
Yeah. Well, you could say that another contender would be Katen's sisters.
Yeah, it's not that Yoko isn't like her body isn't hot or anything. I was just so impressed by Nia, and the way she stood up for Simone in the early
Her in that
episodes.
jacket's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, in the jackets is but I wish there was more of her. Like I said in the episodes, in like the one episode before the conflict starts, it also feels a little weird to me that somehow those two have not married in like the past 7 years.
I think
Feels a little weird.
yeah.
Feels a little weird to me, but also they want to set up like the wedding scene for her death, so that's
Well,
why
it's also the
it's
fact
made.
that if you remember the one scene where Simon was, I think it's Nia or Russ who gave him all this paperwork, and Simon's just stamping and reading all the stuff. So it kind of implies that he had no time for like doing all that.
Possible. So
I think it's mostly because Mia is autistic. Um,
that too.
I mean,
uh,
She
they're both
totally is.
autistic.
So yeah, best girl is Nia. Best bro is Kamina. Best beastman is Viral.
yeah, of course.
We talked little about Viral, but Viral is a great fucking.
You know,
character.
his whole character arc is really good. It reminds me of the dude from Beast Wars.
Oh, Dinobot?
Yeah, Dinobot.
Yeah, I can sort of see that.
But isn't it sort of like a trope at this point that like the rival character, the rival, basically Vegeta.
Do you have a problem with that?
There are good tropes.
I mean, tropes in themselves are not bad. It's how they're executed.
Exactly.
I mean, technically, life is full of tropes.
Yeah. And this is a very well executed rival type character. But like and they build it up the whole way through. He starts out with just his rivalry against Kamina. And what's great is he suffers all these indignities just because he wants one more chance against Gurren Lagann to fight against them, and he grows this grudging respect for Simon by the end, of course, and then just sort of like disgust for Simon at the very end, at the time skip where he's become a freedom fighter type shenanigan, and he's fighting against, it seems like, very much the Beastmen.
That was almost a reversal of roles. Like, he has become
is.
them. It's really great.
He has. It is really great. And they sort of skim over, but I think there is an idea that Simone really just completely accepts him into the team, and Veal's taken a little bit aback by that. They don't get into how the Beastmen are integrated afterwards, after the big battles, but we can presume that they probably are in some capacity.
Yeah.
Especially since Veal's this big commander at the end.
Yeah, I guess with Viral being a rebel and all, it's sort of like implying that Rossiu and Simon and the other guys have sort of become like Lord Genome or something.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Well. Yeah, he's very much a rival on the other side. And there's that great scene where you gotta feel for him. They show everyone's fantasies. The anti-spirals like pump fantasy into your brain, and Veal's fantasy, of course, is to do the one thing that Beastmen can't do, and that's reproduce. And he imagines this family.
That was wholesome, yeah.
It's completely wholesome. You gotta feel for the guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Beastmen can't reproduce. Yeah.
No.
They're cloned, I guess.
Yes.
By the way, if you want to see more of Nia, she's. I think that there's a scene in the second movie, where she's naked except for she's wearing
the coat. The coat.
Yeah.
Yes, the Gurren Lagann coat. Yes.
Yeah. So, I also like that weird thing that's going on with her hair, which is blonde and blue somehow at the same time.
Yeah, it's cool.
I don't think
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's a cool effect. I guess you could say it's sort of foreshadowing that she's not of this earth.
Okay.
I guess
I
Oh,
guess.
Wait, the hair, it's the eyes.
the hair is that unnatural.
And the eyes as well.
Yeah, the eyes is too.
I don't know. I think they were kind of going for like a flower motif there with the eyes.
Yeah, sort of.
Let's see. What else is there to say about her? Yeah, I guess she's sort of. I mean, she's literally a princess, so yeah, she does fall into that category. The princess character category. Yeah, there was a nice episode where like Yoko was a bit jelly, for basically being replaced as I don't know, main girl or something. Um,
That's just catfight. Rawr.
Yeah, I guess I just like I mean, after Kamina was out of the picture, then it was only a matter of time that Yoko would be out of the picture, and just like Kamina was replaced by Simon, Yoko was kind of replaced by Nia, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yoko is very much like the childhood crush that Simone has. Even though Yoko's like obviously into coming in and out of his league, and then Nia is the one that sticks up for him and learns to love and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. I would say in Yoko's case, she sees Simone as just a little brother.
Yeah, very much so, and she notices that attraction in Simone, and she does her best to actually be kind of kind to Simone and not let it bother her, but also not like go out of her way to help it along or anything like that. She's a good character.
So as for the other girls, let's see. So yeah, there are the three Kitans, three of Kitan sisters. I guess one of them becomes a bootlicker for Rossiu, which is kind of a pity because she's a glasses girl. Yeah,
And she's voiced by Kana Ueda, which is great.
yeah, it's a pity. But at least we get to see more of her. And then there's the youngest one, which she's just there, and the other one, and the blonde one, which gets married and has a kid. Yeah, who else is there? I guess there's the mechanic woman. We guess. I think.
Look, there's nothing else to say here.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a cool mechanic woman.
Yeah, I think she's there though, like until the end. No, or does she remain on Earth? I can't remember that.
No, she's on the ship.
I see.
She's the one that actually, I think, fixes part of the ship or fixes the core.
Oh yeah, she fixes the missile which Kitan has to take as well. I think she's there in that scene. Okay, who else is there? So Nia or Yoko? I think I'll go with Yoko. I know it's the popular option, but still.
Yeah, correct choice. The correct choice.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, and apparently she's 14 years old at the start. She doesn't look it. She doesn't look it.
Yeah, we'll just forget that. We'll just forget that.
Yes, let's forget that. We always forget that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I mean I don't think people shit on Yoko's character that much, except that like she has big tits and that's bad somehow. But let's ignore those low IQ.
Plus.
Yeah. Let's ignore those.
I suppose.
Yeah.
It's going back to Yoko's age. You could also point to in the time skip she also has a Skippy uniform, and she's over the age. So there you go.
Yeah.
When she was a teacher, I was waiting for her to I'm like, where's she gonna pull out the skimpy uniform and all the students are gonna oogle at her.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Like after the time skip, when she comes back at the end, though, I think her breasts were a little bit too large. Though I thought. Uh, okay, so Nia's character, on the other hand, I've seen criticized more often. I think again that video, which is nice otherwise, which went over the influencers on some of the influencers. I thought that video would go in more detail because it's like 2 hours long, but like one of the influencers is like guy nets generally, and I'm like, okay. Um, so yeah, the thing which he gets criticized for is for being like a damsel in distress or something. Um, like, oh, she's just there like to help Simon's character grow. Um, she doesn't do anything. And yeah, so that's a bad thing or something. I guess. Do you guys have any comments on that? I guess.
She seemed better than Frau from Gundam. Armoro, Armoro.
Yeah.
I mean, Nia was kind of sort of Frau in a way. Although in Frau's case, I sort of like Frau a bit more than Nia. At least Frau.
Oh my god, really?
Yes.
What? Okay,
Yes.
look, I feel pity for Frau. I really do, because Amuro treats her like someone posted like a
Exactly.
picture of a trash heap.
That was
Amuro
me.
looking. Yeah, that was you. but but the thing is, Nia's just a better person. Like overall. But like the way she sticks up for Simone, faith in him, yada yada yada. She's a better person. Frau is a lot more average, which is not to say she's bad, but she's a lot more your average childhood friend.
Yeah, so I think one of the comments on that video which people made, was that yeah, so it's true that Nia's character is just there for the growth of Simon's character, but that could be said.
Yeah,
That could be said about every
everyone
character.
is.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone is.
Uh, and and also I would also add that yeah, she's basically a good person when like at the end she's like when Lord Genome like says that it's okay for him to sacrifice himself for the sake of others. She's also, yeah, you're absolutely right, and like she goes out peacefully, and I thought that was a nice self-sacrifice. And as for her being damsel in distress, well, go suck a cock. There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
Um,
nothing wrong with that.
okay. Who else is there to talk about? So we talked about. Yeah, did Dave explain why is it that the gay guy, the gay scientist, he never gets old? Like at the end, they show him and he still looks the same, but Rossio is like an old
I
man.
think that's a joke. I think it's a joke.
Yeah.
Why is it funny?
Because he doesn't age and doesn't his looks don't change. He looks, that's the joke. Haha.
I see. I totally missed the joke.
Japanese humor.
I see. So it's not immortal. He just looks the same. I see.
Yeah.
Or you could have an explanation since he is a robosexual. I think he basically made his own robot body.
Maybe he's the only plastic surgeon in this universe.
Or maybe he's just really good at makeup.
There you go.
Yeah. By the way, didn't Simon have a spiral in his eye at the very end, or maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So does
Like-
that mean that he's immortal the same way?
No, it had nothing to do with immortality. It's just the spiral, like taking over you. It's like the ultimate symbol of it.
I think, but Does he only have it in one eye? I think, or was it both?
No, both eyes,
eyes.
both eyes. This isn't Code Geass.
I see. Yeah, they don't have Geass here. I see.
There is no stuff about if you get Geass, you turn immortal, and it goes out of Rampage. No, we're not watching that show right now.
This is not. Is this before Geass or after Geass?
This came out at the exact same time as first season of Geass. Exact same time.
Shit. Must have been a good time to watch.
What a
anime.
time to be alive. Yes, what a time to be alive.
What a time it was.
Yeah.
Dude, I was watching that week to week too. That was amazing. Dude,
Yeah.
what a
Oh
time.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't get how people say that like anime hasn't gotten worse. You know.
Oh,
It's gotten worse. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
You get some diamonds on the rough though, you do. Are they as good? I don't think so.
Yeah, the Digibro video you linked a while back on that. Yeah, he was like defending anime was just as good. You have to understand he was doing that in like 2014, 2015, which was right after 2012, which was another.
Yeah,
very,
we're in an
very
era
strong
of
year.
we're entering an era of woke. Dude, interspecies reviewers got pulled off of Japanese television.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Happy Sugar Life didn't. So weird.
Okay, so let's see. Was there's Gurren Lagann an original anime, or was it an adaptation?
Yes. It
Original.
was not an adaptation. It is full original. Gainax always does full original stuff.
Not always. I mean,
Always those 2 times.
I mean,
Exactly.
I see.
If you want to be the most anal person about it, you could say that Evangelion had its manga released as a promotional thing a few months before the anime. Therefore, Evangelion is technically a manga adaptation.
I think Karekano was pretty much an adaptation. I think, and it's by Gainax, right?
No, it's by Imaishi. It is not by Gainax.
It's not by Gainax, Karekano. Okay.
You know.
I mean, it's a pretty old anime. Wasn't Imaishi working for Gainax back then?
I mean, these directors jump around a little.
I see.
I mean, Imaishi, I see he directed Gurren Lagann and then Panty and Stocking and then moved on. I don't know what he worked as in a lower capacity for Gainax. I'm sure I could find it.
Which studio directed Karekano then? Can't remember. Have a look at that.
Karekano. Oh no, that was Gainax. Oh, I'm thinking of a different show. Yeah, that was Gainax and JC Staff. Yeah, JC Staff came in.
I see, and it was a manga adaptation, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
maybe this was the only one then.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. I guess any other characters we could talk about? Talked about Rossiu. Any yeah.
I would say one thing that it's kind of funny that you mentioned the whole sequel. Technically speaking, the Gurren Lagann sequel would just be Super Robot Mobile Suit Gundam.
How so?
Well, one thing that Gurren Lagann and Mobile Suit Gundam have in common is the whole team dynamic. And the way it's set up at the end, it's basically, there's still, it's not quite peaceful. They are contacted by other spiral races. So who knows, maybe the other spiral race could just be a genocidal maniac.
Yeah, and new fights, new battles, yeah.
I think that also kind of hints at humans are innately going to fight with each other no matter what,
Does it?
Yep.
No.
Well, if there's other spiral species trying to get big, I don't see how they. I don't see how they don't end up inevitably fighting each other.
I mean, I'd agree with you. It does end on Galactic Peace Conference, though. So it's like I
Well,
agree
yeah,
with you.
I get. I mean that. Yeah, of course, it's going to start with peace, but I don't know. I don't know where that goes except war with each other.
Yeah, I'd agree that eventually some wars would crop up. Probably yes. I'm just saying that's not particularly. I think the
I
way
get. I get. And
series
I
was
wasn't
trying.
implying that.
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
yeah, I guess like the ending is like I don't know, like like a global warming conference or something. Except it's to prevent.
It's the Antichrist.
It's
It's the
it's to
Antichrist.
prevent what's it called, the spiral nemesis or something, rather than
Yes.
global
Yep.
warming, because it's sort of the same kind of theme, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
humanity going like being too excessive or something.
Hmm.
Let's see, yeah, which is kind of lame, but now that I think about it, let's see. Another, I guess. Mm, I guess Macross is an example of a series which maybe didn't need sequels, I guess. Yeah.
Macross. I mean, I like the sequels in Macross just fine. I mean, yeah, you would say that it wasn't necessary, but I think in Macross's case, the sequels always try and do something new and something interesting, and I think like the vast majority of Macross's stuff is pretty good.
Mm. Yeah, I guess at this point, even if I know that it's not going to be as good as this, the reason why I would hope for a sequel is that at least it would be interesting.
Yeah.
Unlike most of the stuff which is coming out these days.
Yeah, but I mean, they made Fully Cooley season 2. That went up like a lead balloon.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, but,
Yeah, and it'll be Gurren Lagann from Netflix.
yeah, but
Oh no,
no,
no!
no, God,
I mean,
but
they're already announcing a live action Gundam, so
God,
I
Oh
mean
my god.
that's has at least that's like being done by Legendary Studios and Sunrise, so that at least has a chance to be good.
Netflix is trying to say that Cowboy Bebop live action is their #1 show right now.
What the fuck?
That is like that's what the Twitter said.
yeah,
that is technically true. It's
What
their
do you
number
mean?
one.
What do you mean the
I mean,
Twitter
besides
said?
the Cowboy Bebop Twitter. I'll
well,
see if I can find it so I
yeah.
can show you guys.
I mean, of course, the Cowboy Bebop Netflix Twitter is going to say that,
Yeah,
but it's not.
totally not shenanigans.
It's not the like the official Netflix thing saying that it's their number one show, right?
Yeah, but if you go on Netflix itself, which I pray to God you don't have, it is on the top list of their most watched shows. It's like on the top 5.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to doubt the taste of most Netflix subscribers at this point.
I think they artificially put it there. I don't even think people are watching
Yeah.
it. I think they literally just put it there.
Yeah, I don't get why people pay for this stuff. Anyway, the soundtrack, was it repetitive?
I actually, I really like the soundtrack, but one of my friends was like pointing out to me the main theme to Gurren Lagann is melody is shockingly similar to the main theme from Big O. It really is. Like instrumentally, no, but in terms of melody, it's shockingly similar. And you wouldn't think it until you sort of line them up back to back, and you go, "Huh, yeah." But other than that, no. Soundtrack doesn't come across to me as overly derivative or anything very strong.
No,
No,
I mean, do they play the same stuff too much? I guess
Not for my taste, no.
no.
no,
I see.
not particularly.
Let's see. I'm just looking on Mal to see if there are like any negative reviews that we could go over just for fun. Let's see. No, 10 out of 10, 7 out of 10. 10 out of 10. 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10.
Oh, 5.
Yeah, try to find a negative review, please. You can. I think you could sort them by review.
Yeah, lowest.
Okay, so let's go over this 5 out of 10 one. So Gainax is easily one of the most well-known anime studios, especially with titles like Neon Genesis Evangelion, Karekano, and Wings of Anesia. However, as of late, many fans claim that the quality of Gainax has dropped significantly. So this is a review back from 2008 as well, so around the time it came out, I guess. Without a doubt, Gurren Lagann took both Japanese and Western fandoms by storm. Okay, where does he start saying the negative stuff?
Usually they score stuff by at the end towards like the different categories.
So Gurren Lagann reminds me of another Gainax title, Gunbust, especially the last third. Yeah, I guess it's the last. It's kind of like the last. I mean, is the message basically the same? I mean, I guess the overall message is kind of the same. Like, humanity is going to like continue growing or something. And there's some alien threat which wants to prevent it from growing anymore.
Yeah.
So I guess it's similar in that sense. I mean, when it comes to scale, though, I think I felt like the last episode of Gunbuster, for me at least, did a better job of making everything look huge. Because because here I guess it felt a little bit more like it was. I mean, they're both super robot shows, but this felt Gurren Lagann felt more super robot. Like because like the robot in Gunbuster, it didn't like literally grow back limbs that came off. Right, it needed to be repaired. So there were, I mean, there were quote unquote limits.
Dude, look, this review is super short. Let me just read this little. Look, this guy gave it a 3. Okay, but and it's very short. Sure, the art and characters were all right, but the story sucked. This anime had a lot of potential. I couldn't even get past the 4th episode. I kept telling myself it'll get better, but it never did. I might have only watched a few episodes, but I could tell the storyline wasn't going anywhere. The fact they kept using Transformers as the main power tells me this is an anime I won't like. Try to be more original.
Transformers? What? Ow.
There you go. They made the main character more into a side character by giving him such a lame power. Who wants to be the head? The only part of this anime that I enjoyed was the girl in the ending's openings. There you go. That's the review.
I didn't particularly like the ending, to be honest. The opening was good though. So let's see. The story and structure was distinctly shonen, thus suffering from a high degree of predictability. Did you feel that? I don't know. I mean,
no.
I mean, coming as that was pretty unpredictable, if you ask me.
Yeah, this guy didn't even get to that part.
So he goes on.
Didn't get past the 4th.
Yeah. So he goes on to say, first, you have a powerful opponent. Yet against all odds, the protagonist defeats them. Rinse and repeat. Then another more powerful opponent pops up, and yet again, against all odds, the protagonist defeats them. Usually by some kind of power-up. Keep on repeating till there are no more enemies left. Many of the characters are also the embodiment of your typical shonen protagonist, energetic idiots that keep running forward, destroying every obstacle their way. This was accomplished with very little thought when it comes to probability, strategy, and even logic. It keeps on this monotonous path until the time skip.
I feel like that's a common shonen trope, though, is like, the next battle, because I mean, it's like, Luffy knocks out every battle, he just knocks them out, KO. It's like, it's kind of shonen, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sorry, there are certain shows that are such classics. If you do not like them, short of you realizing that it's just something weirdly personal on your part, you have shit taste.
So I guess
Someone
Yeah.
who
Hmm.
someone who really dislikes this show and doesn't realize that it's just them has shit taste.
Eh,
Period.
I guess. I mean, what about the criticism that it's very the conflicts and everything? The battles are very repetitive and they don't involve that much strategy.
Yes, the battles are always who has more inspiration than the other person. The point.
I guess what these people are saying is something like well, the standard. So the standard is something like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and this doesn't live up to that.
I
Us,
don't care about your established standard. This is about what is the
That's also
show
like a
trying.
160 episode series, by the way.
110, yes.
Okay,
yeah,
110.
But also it's like this is not about that. This is not a story that is about perfectly planning things or anything like that. This is a show that is mostly about willpower, and it's mostly about those types of things. I
yeah.
guess you could say maybe you could have had like a scene where Wasu's plans come through at the end so that he actually doesn't feel like he's just a giant walking mistake machine. That might have actually been better. But other than that, the whole point is to have these over the top battles, and they do have like minor strategy in the first season, so
I,
that's actually not
I, I,
entirely fair.
I guess what they some could make the point then. Well, if it's just about rule of cool, then why is it that you have a problem when people describe it as mindless fun? I guess if it's just a rule of cool about like who has the most motivation or something, why is it a problem when people? Why is it wrong when people just describe it? When people like Arcada describe it as just mindless fun.
Okay, let's say you're watching Ashta no or whatever. Ashta no Joe, Megalobox or show like that. The fundamental motivation in that show.
I can punch harder.
Yeah, I can punch harder.
Yes.
I have overcome. That is the point in that show, as it is in Gurren Lagann. And the thing is, Gurren Lagann has enough facets in it that you can't call it just completely mindless fun. Even if you can turn off your brain and just enjoy it that way, you can. But there's more going on there.
Yeah.
In terms of themes and whatnot that we've already
Yeah, but
discussed
but,
at
but I,
length.
I I guess they could say then what makes it this different from any other super robot show, which is also
The
just about.
heart, the quality in the heart.
Yeah, but aren't those other super robot shows also just about like punching harder? I guess. Um,
Yes, but the way you have Simone go through his troubles uh, is Kamina is serves as this focal point character, and the way it portrays Simone's own troubles is quite in depth. The between those two, how Simone eventually pulls himself out of his funk, and then the later stuff with which shows the dynamics between those who want to set up like a new system, or those who are running this new system, and how it's started to abrogate authority, and the downfalls of sort of that more bureaucratic type and whatnot. That those are like legitimate running themes in this show. Like that is a little bit more going on than your standard Super Robot show, and it's also like you said, done to such a fine polish, so well executed, no time wasted. If anything, they could have put more episodes, but Be that as it may.
Of course, you would like more episodes.
I would.
No,
Let's give it 50 episodes like Monster. Just give it 52.
no. This is like the type of show where I think it's like they don't do this, but I think like 32 or something like that would have maybe been the right number. Something like that. Just like
I would have
couple
puked.
more
I would have puked.
I mean, I mean, come on, Lou. You have been watching anime for a while. Why is it that you prefer 12 episodes?
I just like it. I just like the condensed stories. And if you need more, you can get more. You get season 2.
Yeah, but I think the reason why a lot of new anime sucks, I think, is also because it's so short as well.
Yeah, sometimes, but most of the time it's improved more than it's ruined.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
And if you want more, you get season 2. Just do better.
So I guess I've all again to that video to that 2-hour video which explains some influences. I think he said something like you can't take out the manliness or something or whatever from Gurren Lagann, but earlier you described somebody, I can't remember who described it as such, but somebody described Kill la Kill but for girls. So it's Kill la Kill Gurren Lagann minus the manliness, I guess.
I mean, that would be technically incorrect.
I feel like they're different shows, in my opinion.
Yes, somewhat. Yeah. But that would be technically incorrect if only because you have nudist speech in that show. But yeah, that Kill la Kill is a lot more focused for girls. That's not exactly
I guess I don't agree with you, guy. I guess kind of, but it's also like a dissection of the ancient Japanese, like the history of their government and stuff too, as well, and like their subjugation by America.
I mean, I don't
is
know.
There?
Dude. There's a you should read up some of the theories on the underlying. I'll look up a thing for it. I'll post it in the channel.
Okay.
I see.
I was just going to say, unless you've got some pressing thing, I feel like we've gone far enough on this.
Yeah. I'd also say, to me, the length doesn't really matter. As long as the show has a point and it's not mindless and just meandering.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, someone who complains, oh, there's no strategy, is the point of battles in a show is to highlight a character or to it's to bring out something in those characters. It's not just to be a battle for battle's sake. The point of battles is to move forward the characters and do something interesting. It's not necessarily the battle itself has to be done in this interesting way. It can be, but that's not the focus.
Yeah. But by the way, the reason why I brought the the quote unquote manliness point is because a lot of I guess there's like a certain section of like all the anime fans who think that the problem that anime has become like less manly or something.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
It is true. It is true, 100%, and it is going woke.
Yeah, and
not very fast, but it's going there.
Yeah, Gurren Lagann was originator of a lot of Gar stuff. Of course, the original stuff, Gar thing is Archer from Fate Stay Night. But that's actually a pretty fair criticism of the direction anime's gone for a while overall. Obviously, you can point to any one like more feminine style show and say, hey, this is pretty good, or it's always been a little bit like this. But you do have it to the point now where it sort of so dominates the market, and like how many characters, even in style to Kamina, were in shows last season? I'm going to bet close to 0. And it's probably close to 0 this whole season. There's probably a couple, but not
say the
many.
only example I can think of is Joe from Megalobox.
By the way, did Gurren Lagann sell any toys? Because it's a mecha, and that's one of the things which come up with mecha a lot, I guess.
It didn't sell anything in terms of like children's toys or anything like that, but in terms of like action figures and dolls of the of Yoko, yeah, it sold plenty enough of those, but it wasn't designed to be a kids show with kids merchandise in that capacity. No, but it has sold plenty of merchandise since airing.
Because I guess one of the criticisms which you could make about the designs is that they kind of look like toys.
But almost none of them were made into toys. Like Gurren Lagann was, and almost nothing else was. Like Gurren Lagann and Yoko, and that's about it. These were not designed. The point was to make them a little campy and cartoony looking, and that was the style they were going for.
I see. So I guess the reason why they looked like toys is because the things which they are I guess imitating the super robot.
War toys.
Yeah,
the super robot
they inspired by.
Yeah, I see. Okay, I think we have kind of discussed everything. Is there anything else? Any of you? I guess let's go to final thoughts or something like that. Why not? Rather than just end it just like that. So, Lou, tell us your final thoughts and your score for this.
My score for it is probably like 10 out of 10 because it's the best anime ever, along with Kill La Kill. I liked it a lot. It's just I love how it starts and they're like under the ground and like dirt, like they're beneath dirt and they end up like bigger than the universe. It's just so great.
I mean, you gave Happy Sugar Life 10 out of 10, so
that was a jokey 10 out of 10 though. That was a jokey 10 out of 10.
All right.
I said that when I did that.
Okay. So what about you, George? Tell us your score and your final thoughts.
Well, I guess it's probably going to be the lowest among you. I gave the show a 7. It's pretty. I would say it's a good show. It's pretty watchable. It's a decent show about manhood and the struggle with Simon.
Heck yeah!
How he goes from being a timid little kid to basically full-blown man. And I would say if you want someone that likes balls-to-wall action and is getting into anime, Gurren Lagann's a pretty good start.
So how did it lose those 3 points, I guess?
I guess in terms of personal preference, I prefer shows of a bit more, I wouldn't say glacier slow pace, but I'm more interested in shows of a slightly slower pace. The pacing at times could be it was a bit distracting, but I enjoy it overall.
I see. Yeah, pacing. I guess it's. I mean, the only problems when I had it with pacing, I think, was not that the pacing was too fast, but that it was a bit too slow. In the first half, as I said earlier, in some parts, like episode 6. Give me a second to talk among yourselves. Okay.
Okay.
I think what you guys are going to realize is that my scores make 0 sense and they won't make any sense. I just like saying I like stuff and I don't like stuff.
No, that is the best score that there is. There is a reason when Siskel and Ebert went on TV, the only score they gave was thumbs up and thumbs down.
Yep.
All right.
There was this there was this like online totally rad show podcast they used to do where they would do like they had this like ranking sign. What it would do is it would give you two movies head to head, and you'd pick one that was better than the other one, and then it would score them all based on you doing movies versus each other. And I think that gave the most accurate like ranking list of anything.
Yeah, that's fair.
So a 7. All right. I mean, I guess what would be a 10 out of 10? Some examples, I guess. Joe.
Oh, 10 out
I'll
of
tell
10.
you, I got my list. Kill La Kill for sure. I love Kill La Kill.
I guess 10 out of 10 for me, and it's kind of a cliche at this point, would probably be Monster, Legend of Galactic Heroes. And a close would probably be, I would say Shida no Joe.
Did you say Monster and Legend of the Galactic Heroes? Like you like Monster?
Oh, I love Monster.
Are you serious?
I do.
Oh my god. Really? Why?
I love the themes.
Man, I hated that, man. I hated it. I hated everything about it. Everything.
Hey, you share
I hated the
same
length.
opinions,
I hated the story. I hated the ending. I hated the twist that I'm not going to ruin for you guys, but the twist about the brother and the sister. You know what I'm talking about.
I didn't mind that, to be honest.
Ugh, so awful. So awful. Everyone has their own taste, though. I'm glad,
Yeah, I wanted to see if there were any fast-paced shows which you would rank 10 out of 10, but it seemed mostly much more slow shows, I guess. I mean, was Ashita no Joe slow?
I would say, I mean, it does take its time with the pacing, and it is quite a lot of episodes, but I wouldn't consider it slow. But it's not like a 20 episode anime. It's, if you count the total, I think it's, so the first iteration is 79 episodes, and the second iteration is 47.
If I'm not mistaken, it isn't a lot of it episodic too, I guess.
No, I wouldn't say it's episodic.
Okay.
It has its, I mean, it's not really a strong like antagonist or any plot. It's just, the gist of it is Joe coming from a homeless drifter to a boxer.
All right. Yeah, I mean, Joe is one of the shows which inspired Gurren Lagann. I mean, there's a few references, I think.
Yeah, there's two.
So there's the obvious one when Kamina dies, and you see that short reference. So that's basically just like Joe when Joe dies, and you see that in a lot of places. And
Yeah.
there's also the cross counter. Can you?
Well, there's a cross counter, and also the when Kamina was riding all those pig moles into the underground to escape. That is what Joe basically did in prison.
Yes, that too. Can't think. Did you guys notice any references to anything else? I guess there were the Get a Robo thing with the
there was a bit of Harlock.
Harlock.
Yeah, the first shot is basically the way Simon was mocking is very Harlock.
Yeah, it's based off of a little Harlock walk in this in the Captain Harlock OVA, like Endless Odyssey.
Did Nia come out of a case?
Yes, she did.
That is a reference to Melfina from Outlaw Star.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, and it's generally agreed upon that the prologue at the start of this show is like an alternate universe or of like what would have happened if Simone and his gang had like became villains and gone crazy with spiral power.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
It's generally agreed upon that the prologue that is shown in at the very opening scene in Gurren Lagann, it's generally agreed that is depicting what would have happened if Simone and the rest of his buddies went insane with spiral power and was like threatening to essentially start Spiral Nemesis, blow up the whole universe.
Really? I don't-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the common interpretation that's given. I think it's also pretty clear that they just put that in as a show stinger at the start, and went off course, and they said, we really don't care."
I see. I see. I mean, isn't it just them? Isn't it just Simon just being on the deck?
No, they specifically make mention. So all the stars in the universe are enemies, huh? And then
Yeah,
Simone
yeah. I
goes,
see.
they're not worthy to be my enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's clear like villain vibes coming from them in that opening, or at least anti-heroic vibes.
Yeah, I see. Now I remember. Yeah, but Yeah, it's not. That doesn't. That isn't actually what happens. Yeah,
No.
I see.
I
Uh,
guess another reference that 2 Hour Video also mentioned is immediately when Kamina dies, Simone basically vomits. Well, the gunman basically vomits.
and that's a reference to what?
I thought that was cool.
Well, you know how in the Shin no Joe, as soon as, well, look, I don't know if I should. Should I really
Spoil away, dude. It's so
Sure.
old.
Okay,
Go.
so in the when Rikishi dies, basically Joe becomes a bit of a wreck. He does come back eventually, but thing with him is he psychologically can't punch below the temple because because subconsciously he blames himself for Rikishi's death. So when he attempts to punch someone through the temple in one boxing match, he vomits.
Hmm.
The traumatic past, and you can't get over it.
So yeah. So there's one comment in the chat asking whether we have seen Death Note. Yeah, I mean, I think we have
Yes.
all seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely, yes. I've seen it both dub and undub.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Both are good.
And that's another one I watched while it was airing. I watched a lot of stuff as it was airing.
Yeah, that was like what, 2006?
A long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, around the same time as this.
Yeah, so basically, first half is good, second half is shit.
Dude, this was such a good season. You guys don't even know how good anime was during this time.
Oh, I know. It's how
Like the golden years, kind of. Except the 90s. The 90s were like the golden years too, man. The 90s were amazing.
90s were great. Yeah, that patch in the middle to late 2000s and then the early 2010s. Very good patches. Yeah.
All right. So what about you, Heracles? Final thoughts and your score?
9 out of 10. Definitely one of the best anime. I was surprised how much I enjoyed this, and I hadn't watched it for in like near a decade, and I was very, very impressed by it.
Right. I think basically before, so have already watched this once as well a long time ago, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. I think the reason why I didn't enjoy it probably was because I expected Kamina to be the main character, and I found Simon to be a little bit boring.
I felt the same way, dude. And when that happened, I felt like Simon when he was going through that trauma phase. Man, I was like, no.
I think I don't know. To be honest, I'm not sure exactly why I liked it a lot more this time than the last time.
Probably because of woke culture and how manly this freaking anime is.
Yes, probably that. By the way, Husky, we are live, so don't say
Yeah.
anything too edgy. As for the score, 8 out of 10. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think. I mean, it's still a rule of cool show at the end. And I think that this is the best that a rule of cool show can be. But I wouldn't put it in the 9 and 10. Um,
What's a 10 for you, student? Like, what would be one of your 10s?
Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Like everyone is damn besides Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
I don't think.
Goddamn 120 episode series that no one has
Yeah,
the fucking
it's
time to watch.
120 episode
Yeah.
series of great quality.
Is there any other 10 out of 10 anime?
Does anything reach the heights of Legend of the Galactic Heroes? It's like you got to put Legend of the Galactic Heroes as one, the S plus, and then everything else.
Yeah,
See,
basically. Yeah.
see, I'm the type of person where I'm going to say Legend of the Galactic Heroes has more breadth than a show like this, and I think a lot of people rate Legend of the Galactic Heroes highly because it has more breadth. But if I'm going to compare Legend of the Galactic
Maybe I'll
Heroes,
watch it, and then all my other list will go down to 9.
No, no.
Like that will be my 10 now, and then everything else
I-
will be 9.
I doubt it, because here's the thing. Legend of the Galactic Heroes, because it has more breadth it has more flaws, in my opinion, than this show does. Legend of the Galactic Heroes. It's not to say it's not great. It is great, but it has more flaws than this show does.
Because it's longer, or because
Well, partly because it's longer, partly because
Bigger.
it's bigger. There's small issues here and there. Yeah. I won't get into too much, but yeah, I don't consider Legend of the Galactic Heroes to be a perfect masterpiece or anything. I think the thing is, like,
it's just the
it
best
appeals.
anime, I guess.
No, it's not. No, it's a history.
My
thing
tens
is,
will hurt you guys. My tens will hurt you inside.
thing is, it's a history anime, okay? And the thing is, the people who are nerds that are into ranking anime are going to be history nerds or people that never realized they were history nerds. And Legend of the Galactic Heroes fits that to a T. Now, I am a history nerd, but I'm also enough of a history nerd to know that Legend of the Galactic Heroes is not necessarily revolutionary, except in that it does so many things well.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. So. I mean, I guess the question is why not a 9? And then, why not a 9? I think an 8 is high enough. A 7 would be too low because it's pretty much the best in its genre, at least. I agree with the message. I guess it's also because some of the characters. I would put something like Ashita no Jo to be a 9, for example.
Yeah.
But why doesn't this reach the heights of Ashita no Jo, I guess?
Yeah, why not? Why doesn't it reach it?
Yeah, I think maybe it's because there's more suspension of disbelief. I mean, I guess there's some in Joe as well, but I think there's more here because it's still at heart a rule of cool show. I mean, I guess there's a character that's just like in Joe and all that. But I don't know. Like for example, so
It sounds to me like you've put the show in a box and you've decided that that box can only go so high.
Sure. So let's see. Let me read a bit from Snob's review. He also ranked it as an 8. I think 8.5. Looking at everything.
That dude hates everything.
So no, he doesn't hate Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Exactly.
So let's see. He does say that it's the best super robot anime ever. It is still about protecting the world and your loved ones from evil aliens. But uh, but the ideals don't stop to something so unselfish. Such premises felt too boring and no longer sell today. All the characters uh, do want to help their world, but also never forget to have their own selfish agendas along the way. A thing that helps you not to view them as robotic servants of some imposed political correct ideology. That is what makes American superheroes such as Batman and Spider-Man more interesting than Superman or Captain America. They act upon selfish impulses and not just impersonal ideals. And anyway,
What the,
yeah, sorry.
I mean, what's wrong with them personal ideals sometimes? I mean, if anything, that's the more classical thing is to like be willing to die for an ideal,
Sh- yeah,
and all that type of
no,
stuff.
by an impersonal ideal, I mean he means more he's more specifically talking about how the characters are selfless.
Mm,
That sort of thing here he's talking about.
hmm.
Um, so and then he goes on to say, and anyway, the target audience is teenagers, of course. And rebellious, selfish, politically incorrect characters are cooler than some boring Superman variant. Um,
Okay, I'm going to have to. We should probably wrap this up, but I'm going to have to step in here. Superman, he is not always interesting, but when he is interesting, it is entirely related to his ideals and being forced to live up to them in some capacity. That's why, like, when they did like the Western cartoon Justice League Unlimited, there was like they introduced there was like a two-parter episode. First off, where it was like, what if Lex Luthor became president and Superman decided he had to become a dictator to rule the world, to keep the peace? Because obviously you can't have Lex Luthor's winning the presidency and causing trouble. And there's like a whole season afterwards where the rest of the world finds out about this alternate dimension where that happened, and there's like this standoff between the US government and the Justice League themselves, and there's all this talk about will Superman live up to his ideals and not get involved, or will he fall into this trap, and yada yada yada. That stuff was interesting. Superman is interesting as a character when he's pressed to his limits to do the right thing no matter what, and overcomes it regardless. But you still obviously have that internal struggle there. People who just say, "Oh, we need my characters to be flawed." Well, equally speaking, if your character is a piece of shit, no one's going to like him. Oh, he has flaws. Great. He is Subaru. He is a piece of shit. I don't like him. I don't want anything to do with him. I don't want to
I want
watch
him to
the
die.
the
Okay.
content.
I want.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
over and over.
so yeah, I think once and for all would be better, rather than over and over again. Um, so I think that TTGL does better than any other category, than any other in its category, is the feeling of empowerment. In most such shows, the power up is mostly supposed, quote unquote, supposed. The heroes would get new uniforms, or a new weapon, or a new robot, and they seem to fight better with the current villain before it all becomes meaningless after a few episodes, since the size of their robot or the choreography in battles is exactly the same. Yet, this show does a much better job at fooling you. There is progress. As the characters begin as a bunch of unarmed tunnel diggers and steadily turn to some sort of intergalactic superpower, things keep growing in size and importance on almost every episode, and again, it prevents you from feeling bored to wait for the next development to take place in 20 episodes. But wait, I did say, quote, fool you, unquote, didn't I? Well, yeah, it is. It really still is just a trick by the end of the day. As no matter how much the heroes progress in technology or manpower, they still use the exact same method of fighting, screaming, uh, all in caps, screaming. It is still the exact same thing. They begin by throwing rocks and end by throwing galaxies. It's just the size that changes. Not a bad thing, as it still looks very cool, but it sure doesn't feel too convincing. So, yeah, I think that basically explains it. It's yeah, it's basically the same. You know, it's the same thing happening over again. And I mean,
It's
it looks cool.
life. That's history.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, have you did you watch the things besides the fight scenes? There were things that were happening in between them.
Yeah, I mean, there were, but let's be honest. If you cut out all the fight scenes, it would be pretty boring, wouldn't it? Um,
That'd be fair, better stuff there. But and the other thing is, okay, the fight scenes are usually punch harder. Yeah, that's most fight scenes. I mean, it's not like they're badly choreographed or anything. I mean, it's such a sophomore take. I struggle to even deign to address it.
all right. Yeah, I mean, it's all right. It's not bad. So, I think that's enough. I think that's enough.
Yep.
So TBH in the chat says, "Don't believe in yourself. Believe in me. Believe in the me that believes in you." Yeah.
Believe in me. How have we not said that once this review? Believe in me who believes in you.
All right. And on that note, I think we can stop streaming.